pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is public comment.
Oh, now's my chance. I need to request road closures for Antique Fest, please. Permission for road closures.
And specifically, which ones are they?
Same as last year.
Yeah.
You're second.
Second Street from Lake to Burlington. And Burlington from Second to Fletcher. Can we say that again?
Have you taken into consideration the request for updates for the post office?
Yes, I went in and talked to the postmaster. Okay.
Thank you. I think that is written up in a resolution last year. If we could just maybe repeat it for those streets.
Does that also go for the use of the grounds? Or do we need a separate letter? That resolution.
Okay. So we're good going forward.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You can close roads without a resolution. It's the use of the grounds.
I think we did that by resolution last year, but I don't know if it was like an annual every year or just for that year, but I think we determined.
We've been doing it for how many years? I think we gotta make it perpetual.
Right, but I think we may have, that's why I'd like to look at it.
If you didn't, and you need something from me to. Written up, go ahead. 514915527.
I could look it up, but it's easier than something.
That's for antiques, yes.
Right. Because I think we did one for markets shortly thereafter,
Mhm.
and then just keep them going.
All right. And
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm the president for the Maryland Multi Baseball League. So I just want to let the village know, we had to move opening day to May 3rd from April 26th, because the fields are just gonna be way too wet for us to hold anything there. We will be having an ice cream social following the parade. Anyone in the village is welcome to come and have ice cream with me. The parade is gonna start at 11, but the players will arrive at the post office at 10:30, if that's still okay. And then also the new table field, we've already placed the baselines. They're just beyond the gate. We're getting dirt delivered to go ahead and fill in what needs to be filled in. But we will need sand from the village to be able to mix it in.
DPW wasn't here today, I haven't gone about it.
right. You're like, coming to this.
And then we just want to make sure we can put in a set of bleachers back there. They'd be the same as what's at the other two ball fields.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Delivering the sand, delivering the dirt, though, how, that's gonna be problematic with the wet ground there.
Yeah, it's the same company that's done it in the past. They're from Randall.
Unfortunately, no one locally sells any sort of in like good clay that, you know, can sop up stuff. I've been looking all over. And they seem to be the closest one, however, it's, we're just trying to figure out coordination. The delivery is the big part, because it's in Granville. So quite a haul. I'd rather give somebody local, you know, obviously that, you know, some sort of business over here, we'd like to. I'm Justin, by the way, I'm one of the board members and minors coach too. Yeah, that's really been the bigger problem. We're just trying to find something that will be it's not topsoil, that can soak it all up. So we're in the search process right now. I'm trying to figure out somewhere we can get it, hopefully closer by. So
Yeah, and we noticed on Saturday, there are drains at the field, but the drains are outside, like they're too high. So the water is pooling underneath the drain. So somebody from like DPW or somebody like that could look at it to see if it's possible for them to be lowered. I think that would help a lot with some of the drainage issues we're having, because there's 2 storm drains between the minors and majors field. That's the field closest to like the lake and the one right in the middle. And then there's also drain lines that are along like the big backfield and the fenced in area, but all of those pipes are all above where the water is pooling.
yes.
The ground is settled.
Yeah.
Lots of puddles, not only that puddle, you know, just muddy puddles.
Yeah.
Muddy puddles.
Yeah, you take a step and it looks like it's gonna be solid and you're in over your ankle.
And I did start cutting, I started cutting the lines, you know, just to start
Yeah.
for the new T-ball field and it ended up being like a 10 minutes. Full of water. So it was a rainy day, but still.
Yeah, so that's why we're getting the clay and stuff to try to help with some of that, but if somebody can look at the drainage, that'll help us too.
Believe it or not, it was even worse before they allowed the rain to work there.
Yeah, everything's settled, so the drains are now too high.
And considering we have a lot of T-ball kids this year, a lot of them, which is great. They're gonna be the two fields. We just want to give them the best experience possible and we don't want to cancel games like we've had to in the past.
And I know Bob is always curious about when games are starting. Games are still scheduled to start for April 28th. But they are just our T-ball game fields. So it's just gonna be their first T-ball field. It's just gonna be T-ball games for that week. Cause that is our highest field. It's up a little bit higher. I think that's it.
We will, in the minors, we'll be playing half of our games, hopefully, with Mechanicville, Little League. So we have 18 kids. So that means we're able to at least hold and goal. My goal is to have 8 home games here. 2 scrimmage with the Round Lake versus Round Lake, since we have 18. And then we're gonna have Mechanical Stillwater come up here and, try to be playing our field. I said you got the best view for a field in the area, in my mind, for a minors field. So, we're working on that right now. We should actually hear something today or tomorrow.
And then I'll get a final schedule to Sue. It should be posted to the league by Easter, so I'll get it to you before Easter.
Thank you. And, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing here. Good evening, everyone. I'm Maggie McDonough. As you know, I was here last month for last month's meeting with a request. So start off telling you what I'm looking for, and then we'll get into whys and wherefores. So my request is to have, it's regarding the tennis courts that are just outside my house. You know where the tennis courts are, you know where my house is, my living room overlooks the tennis courts, the Gage House on the corner of East Cobble and Haven. So in 2023, the pickleball lines were painted on the tennis courts. And it has in the space of less than a year, just absolutely changed the character of the area of my home. The noise is constant, the noise is high pitched, it's impossible to get away from, whether my windows are open or closed, doesn't matter. People play pickleball there all hours of the day, right up until it gets dark, and in the summer, that could be 9 o'clock, you know. So all day, all evening, have a new porch that I haven't been able to sit on because I can go out there when it's dark. I can go out of my porch. I can't go in my backyard. I can't enjoy my home. It's been very, very stressful. And just the anticipation of the pickleball courts opening this year has been incredibly stressful because I know what's coming after last year. So first thing I want to do is to just because I think pictures are better than words, and also if I can give you a brief sample of what it's like, but of course I just had it, now see if I can find it. What it's like so that you can understand the how high pitched it is, how the frequency is very high. Hang on a minute, Gary, I'm gonna get to that. Gary, talking here. Okay, so this is typically what you hear at a pickleball field. And it's just gonna sit up. Typically, pickleball is played with 4 people as opposed to you can just have 2 tennis. Hang on for this must just be 2 people messing around because it's only 2 people. We typically play with 4. Pickleball is very boisterous, a lot of yelling, a lot of shouting, and hang on for a couple of seconds. A lot of that too, water trade shot, and it just goes on and on and on like that. So we have a distinctly different. Hang on, sorry, I'll just turn this off. So we have a distinctly different sound, a distinctly different atmosphere. It's not just the noise of pickleball. It's the noise of the people playing pickleball. It's the shouting, it's the cheering, it's all that stuff. And it is constant. Now, I first brought this to Gary's attention a year ago when I was in the thick of it. And I was thinking, oh my God, what's happening? I can't live like this. You and I sat down at your desk, we had a conversation. I told you how I was feeling. I asked for some kind of relief. At that time, not having researched anything, not knowing, all I knew was that this is too much, I can't live like this. I said, could we at least put up signs limiting the hours of play? And you told me no. And then I said, well, what about, because people are always parking. People are coming down there and parking along East Cobble and James Avenue, right along the side of the road, in violation of our parking ordinance. It's unsafe, it's illegal, and it happens all the time, which makes me think that a lot of these people are coming in from outside the village. Regardless of that, it should be happening. And oh my gosh, excuse me, what's my train of thought?
Let me interrupt here for a second. There are a
I'm not
number,
up
there
to
are
that
a
yet.
number.
I'm going to address that. Oh, what we were talking about. And so then I asked you, after we said, you're not gonna put up a sign about the parking. I said, well, could we, limit the hours of play? And you said, no. So those, in retrospect, seem to me to be compromises. In the time since then, I've done an awful lot of research, an awful lot of looking into it, seeing what this is all about. And if it's just me, because it was pointed out to me at last month's meeting, I'm just one person. But as it turns out, I'm one of tens of millions of people across the country who are undergoing the same trauma, the same stress, the same lack of peace of mind, people walking around in their own homes having to wear noise canceling ear things because they can't get away from the noise of pickleball courts because people painted lines on the tennis courts.
Hey, Maggie, can we just, I think we can all agree that it's a problem. I think we can all agree with it. So what are the solutions? Can we jump right to the
We
solutions?
can, hang on a second, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what we.
Because I've got a couple. Last time you came in and after the last meeting, I investigated. This is a quiet pickleball. Hey, maybe I'll pick it up. This does not make a lot of sound. We could require this. We could restrict the hours for pickleball. We could restrict the use of courts for residents. And we could also install sound deadening panels. I've done a lot of research on it as well. Sound deadening panels along the fence. Those are all things that people have done around.
That's right, those are things that people have done, and if the board members have had an opportunity, I sent, and before I forget, let me give Sue, this is, oh, wrong one. I want to give Sue the originals
Is
of
this,
my petition and letters and supporting documentation that I have, so that can be entered into your permanent records. As you
the problem with that is before. We're supposed to give all the residents notice 48 hours ahead of a meeting and written stuff. I mean, every time before a meeting, you get an email from me with all the stuff that we're gonna be discussing. So,
Well, but
What we
you knew I was coming tonight.
yeah, I know, but I still have,
A month ago, you knew I was
I know,
coming
but we
tonight.
are still required to send out information to residents ahead of time.
Like,
We didn't have you sent a bunch of stuff yesterday that I'd already sent out my packet on Monday, 48 hours ahead of time.
this is, well,
So, I mean, we could put this on the agenda for next month and I'll pass out all these materials that you sent yesterday and all the residents can weigh in.
That's really interesting to me that you're eager to have all the residents weigh in. on
It's not
this issue.
I'm eager,
No,
it's
no, no,
it's
no,
required by
because-
the law to inform residents of what we're gonna be talking about.
Oh, well, was there any requirement for you to inform the residents that you're gonna paint pickleball lines on the tennis courts?
No,
Because that's right, none of us found out about it. But it just happened. We found out about it after the fact. So just because something isn't in law, you don't have to do it. But while we're talking about law, and by the way, if you want me to hold off to hand in the petition, I will, but just for the record. What you told me to do at the end of last month's meeting was just one person, Aggie, go do a petition, bring back signatures. I did. If I had a nickel for every hour I spent telling my story, knocking on doors, took me over 3 hours to write this petition. And I wanted to get it factual, I wanted to get it accurate, I wanted it to tell the correct story. And so that the board can make an informed decision.
okay. You're welcome to hand it in, but I mean, before we do any voting on anything. It should be put on the agenda for the next meeting. Village residents should be informed. Because today we got a call asking when we're gonna clean up the courts and put the nets up.
Why do village residents at large have to be informed that the pickleball lines might not be there one day when no one had to be informed that they were suddenly going to be there? Why all of a sudden does it have to be opened up to the whole world when before I thought it was just addressing the board that makes the decisions, the board whose responsibility it is to enforce the village laws? And while we're talking about village laws, I'd like to call everyone's attention to the village noise ordinance, because I have lots and lots of supporting documentation in terms of letters from people, in terms of my petition, in terms of, you saw it, articles, videos, all kinds of things. However, it begins and it ends with the noise ordinance, and the noise ordinance
I
states.
understand that noise ordinance, however, the average pickleball decibel is 57 decibels.
And I've-
At the
and I've-
line.
and I've read absolutely completely different information from that. But while we're talking about decibels, let's go to the spirit of the law. Because if you check out the very beginning of the ordinance, it says, it is hereby declared to be the public policy of the village to monitor the ambient noise level in the village so as to preserve, protect, and promote the public health, safety, and welfare, and the peace and quiet of the residents. I'm a resident. My peace and quiet is not being protected. It's not being preserved. It has been obliterated. The law is here. You don't need to ask anybody else their opinion on it. You guys are duty bound to uphold the law that already exists, and it's not being upheld. And my rights for the quiet enjoyment of my home as a tax-paying village resident of 35 years are being completely ignored.
You can make the same arguments for tennis players, because they make.
In 35 years,
I-
no tennis game has ever disturbed me, ever.
I feel like we're playing tennis right now. So have we had anybody measure, announce at the courts at all? Peter, you have,
Well, I use my phone so that we can make the sound go. I mean, the reality is you mow your lawn, you're breaking the law, you know, it's.
yeah, mowing the lawn
No,
is.
you're not breaking the ordinance, there's an
excluded.
exception, there's an exclusion.
So the other thing is, I think Maggie's more than, she can absolutely enter whatever she wants into the record. I don't think there's any restriction on her doing that. However, I do believe that when we did opt to strike pickleball courts, that was an agenda item and it was discussed during a board meeting and we approved it, because I remember being there at the time. So I do think it's also appropriate that, because this is somewhat last second, that it should be added as an agenda item for other people to weigh in the future too. No matter what we think as board members, I think it's appropriate for
I think
the entire public, because we did discuss this as an open board when we did strike the pickleball courts. So those two things, I think you absolutely should put in your position. I think it should be circulated, and I think other folks should have the opportunity to weigh in as well. I do think we should do a little research, what the sound level is, and I think in the meantime, to your point, Gary, you researched some stuff, but we only got it 24 hours ago, so we haven't really had much time to sit on it and research
Right.
ourselves.
just also for everyone's, because there's a lot of focus on decibels. It is so much more than.
Oh, I understand that, yeah.
It's
the second,
not-
it's the sound. Yeah.
It is what one acoustical engineer called gunshot's little brother. Because it peaks within 1/100th of a second, the pop blasts within 1/100th of a second, similar to when a shot is fired. But when a shot is fired, it doesn't happen over and over and over and over and over in quick succession, hundreds of times, thousands of times, hour after hour. And this is what has happened.
Understood, but we're talking about specifically how pickleball relates to our noise ordinance. Our noise ordinance only cares about the sound.
No, that's not exactly what it cares about.
Okay, we're getting a little off track. I think it would be better to do what Matt suggested, put it on the agenda item. We got your stuff yesterday. I looked through it. I don't know if anybody else looked through it. I've done a ton of research on my own prior to that as well, so.
Just FYI, a couple of things that I think are very important for me to mention, even if I end up having to mention it next month. I want it to be in everybody's head, because you've got a lot of stuff, not everyone has looked at it, but if you hear me say it, that might say a little more or help you when you're reading the materials that I sent. Excuse me, my throat dry.
Could we add this to the workshop? Could we put this in the workshop meeting?
May
So that would be in
7th.
2 weeks time.
2 weeks.
Versus a month, would that be?
So what's the date? I'm going away.
So.
May 7th,
May 7th.
Oh, May 7th? Is that the workshop?
the
Yeah.
first Wednesday
First Wednesday, the,
workshops if we need it.
I'll double check that before I
because
leave.
that way you could get a, it would just, I think it's fair to have, again, it was not on the agenda and really people should have a chance to weigh in on it.
Are there nets up now? When did you put the nets up?
No, not
The
yet.
nets are not up now, and I respectfully request that if this is going to be pushed down the road, no nets go up in the meantime.
That's what I was discussing.
Fair, I'm okay with that, if it's 2 months.
I'll make a motion that we, until this issue gets resolved by the board. No nets on the tennis courts. Take the pickleball strikes out.
No.
That way. The message is clear.
I second them.
The cost of strike the court was not inexpensive.
$7,000.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to remove the strikes until we made an absolute.
Well, then.
I do agree with you.
I'll make this change. Until the board gets this resolved. The courts are temporarily closed. No nets, put a sign down there. Tennis courts are temporarily closed.
I'll second that. I would like to say though that
Just
$7,000,
discussion? Not. Go ahead.
okay, $7,000 to put down the lines is measuring them out, to make sure they're square. Going to buy a gallon of black heat and covering them by DPW will not cost $7,000.
No, but if we did it now without, and then we decided to keep them, and we're spending $7,000 again to put it down, that's the essential. If, basically tearing them up is saying no more pickleball, and I think which may end up happening, but I think we need time to research it. I think taking the nets down is a reasonable.
Take the nets down, close it up, put a sign up, put some yellow tape
That's,
on
yeah, no, I have no,
it.
and we'll hopefully have a resolution in 2 weeks anyway, one way or the other. I just think it's important for other folks to wait.
Yeah, I mean-
Well, I have my own thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I do want to hear it from the rest of the residents.
I have my own thoughts on it, too,
Yeah.
but I think we shouldn't subject people to
Agree.
this until we decide what we want to do.
Agree.
Appreciate that.
Until May 7th.
Yeah.
Let's say until the issue gets resolved.
No, yeah, let's say until the issue is.
Yeah, I'm
Not
okay.
May 7th, yeah, because if something else comes up.
Yes.
I have one other question, if Maggie's gonna sit down and really kick this off by 2 weeks. What?
Hang on, are we going to vote on the motion before, or is this?
I don't know if this is
the motion?
Yeah, we'll vote on the motion.
Want to vote on the motion?
Yeah,
Okay. Yes.
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 yes,
No.
I think we'll post that move on Maggie. On this, so I think the goalpost got moved on Maggie, at the end of last meeting, Maggie was told to come with a petition. She shows up with a petition, and then we start saying, oh no, it's gotta be published, we need to. What's exempt? does Maggie have to do to make sure all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed for the next meeting?
Get the information to us, to the office,
What is that information?
whatever information she is going to present to us.
Yeah.
I have to get 2 days before the 48 hours before the meeting, and I send out with my village update, so that everybody has the information.
This is May 7th.
Yes.
And then
Sure.
you'll have the end of the week before.
But she already had her information, it's the timing, if this is, I mean, honestly, to your point, Eric, this should have been added as an item to the agenda, I was not here at the last meeting, so.
Yeah,
We should
I
have added
asked to
this.
be on
I-
the agenda and I was told I could speak in public comments. That's what I was told.
Okay, so there's no.
Well, before we add stuff to the agenda, I have to have the stuff
Oh,
in
you're
front of
gonna
me.
get it.
No, I already have.
Well, I have more for you.
That's fine.
Yeah, no problem at all. But one thing I want to address, because you pulled out that paddle and the quiet ball and everything, did some research on those. Would that it would be the total panacea, that would be lovely, fabulous. Those of you where I was here last week and I told you there's all these other pickleball courts in the area, free, public, you can go play. Less than 10-minute drive, no big deal. Where they were playing, it's still, that was a month earlier than it is now. People are always playing with the hard plastic balls. I asked a couple of folks, and then I went to the Y, where I have played, and asked folks there, because they have indoor and outdoor. I said, what's the deal? Everybody seems to be playing with these hard plastic balls. I know those were the ones that it started with. And I said, what about the spongy quiet balls? And I asked several people, the gist of was, it said in a couple of different ways, but the gist was, I said, why don't you use those? And they said, why would we? I said, well, they said, if it's not a quiet zone or whatever they call it, they don't bother doing, because everybody has the hard plastic balls. One of the videos that I sent, you'll see, one of the interviewers said, what about these quiet balls? And the one lady said, I don't like those. The whole deal is the pop. The whole deal is, that's what we
Well, that's a
love.
choice that people can make if we
People can
require
make the
the quiet
choice.
ball.
Yes, they can make the choice, but they don't make that choice, is what I'm saying. They're not
They're
popular.
not being forced to. I mean, if we force them to
If
use
you
them
put
on
up a
ours,
sign, that's not even, and this is the point I wanted to make. When I asked you last year for signs about parking and restrictive hours, and you just said no.
we discussed parking at a meeting a few months ago, and
I'm talking a year ago.
Well, I'm talking a few months ago. We talked about it at the board and we decided to just leave it the way it is. As a board.
Okay, so illegal parking, great. So
If I could go back, we may need to review the minutes on that. I believe we said we were going to monitor the issue.
I
We
might-
did not say we were going to leave the issue alone, and there is a very distinct and important difference there.
Yeah, and I have photos in my phone of cars that are parked there. Every time I walk my dog down there, every
Me
couple
too.
times every day. And if those cars parked, I observe the parking of the cars.
well, that's nice. You and I have both observed the cars.
Yeah.
And the cars keep coming.
Well, okay, so then we need to make a concerted effort as the board to understand the parking issues that are there. How often do you drive by?
Every time I patrol, I was told to leave this alone last year, so I left it alone.
Okay, so are there frequently cars?
I was told that you people decided that they could, the board in general, decided that they could, play pickleball, so I
Okay,
can't run out and say, well, you can play pickleball, but you gotta take your car out of the village.
okay, but the question I have for you is, are there frequently cars there?
Yes,
Okay, well, I'm asking.
when the season gets going, there are cars there.
Okay, doesn't mean.
So they were parked illegally. The village board instructed you not to enforce
The
it.
village. boards.
I asked, you talked about it a year ago,
Yeah,
and I said, what are we gonna do about this? And, well, the board said it's okay, so I can't run out.
the board, no, I'm not saying you should have. You did what you were
All right,
told.
all right, so
You
you
have
have
to address the board.
address the board, please.
Okay, I find that fascinating.
I just
It's
can't run.
illegal to park there, and yet our parking warden was instructed not to enforce the law. And the pickleball noise violates the spirit of our noise ordinance, and yet No one is enforcing it. And by the way, when I was looking up the laws, it was interesting to me, I came upon, and it's a whole different thing, it's not a noise ordinance, it's under animals. So if you have a barking dog, the thing about barking dog is, you can't have a barking dog, if the dog is barking for more than 5 minutes at a time, with 3-minute intervals of quiet, and it can be heard just by standing outside the person's house.
All right, we're getting a little off track
Not
here.
really,
Yeah,
because
you know,
this
that's-
is so much louder,
Okay, it's
and
7 o'clock now. This
nobody
is on the
cares.
agenda for the 2nd. Please
If I
get
was
us all
on
the
the agenda
material.
now,
Please get us the material to at least 2 days before, so I can get it out to people so they'll have time to look at it. And we will revisit it.
I'll be sending everything I said to the entire board.
It's good.
Yes,
And
thank you.
Susan.
And the nets will not go up until it's resolved, so you've got that.
I appreciate that, but I just want you to know, those quiet walls and quiet panels. Nobody's interested, nobody cares, the panels go for $200,
That is
nobody
true.
wants those. And,
They're not needed. I mean, you saw how quiet it is. I mean, if we require them, okay, we're going around it. We're going around in
The
circles.
last thing I'm gonna say. It's nice to say the word, you might require it. Who's going to enforce it?
Well,
So far,
that was-
nobody's enforced a thing.
That was
And-
my,
The village
Question.
office is closed Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. That's nearly half the week. If people come there and do it anyway, what am I supposed to do? Who do I call? Am I gonna be the enforcer? Am I gonna make myself a target? Am I gonna go into conflict with people who maybe don't even live in the village? But no, oh, that cranky old woman, that's her house. Let's mess with her. I'm not going to do that, and I should not have to be put in that position.
if it violates the noise ordinance, not the spirit, but the decibel level of the noise ordinance, and it's Peter.
The spirit
It's
of the
unlike-
noise ordinance is what you need to enforce,
Well,
because
It's
that is the
unlikely.
way it's written. And you passed that law.
okay.
Can I
Thank you.
say that if they decide to do something and the cars are parked there. And they decide that it's illegal for them to be playing or whatever you're gonna do with pickleball, I got nerve enough to run them out of there and ticket them.
I know you do.
Otherwise, I'm not doing anything unless the mayor says to do it.
Yep, okay.
At this point,
All right.
because I was told to bring a petition back today. Should I be?
Yes, bring it up here. Absolutely.
There are also letters here, which I will be reading at the workshop for people who wrote in on my behalf as well. Thank you.
Are the letters included here, so we can
Yes, they are.
distribute it?
The originals are there. I have the copies. Those are the originals of everything. And by the way, there's a whole bunch of signed signature pages because we split up at one point and you're saying, why does one look like this and one look like that? And I modified anyway, that's why.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? To treasurer report.
The mayor and I had a Zoom meeting scheduled with accountant CHS on Monday, March 24th. The meeting was unfortunately canceled due to illness and is currently being rescheduled. We have received our first revenues for parking tickets issued by our safety officer. The town of Malta sent us a check for $150. Item number 3, on behalf of the village and the tree and park committee, Mark Marion and Susan Wallen applied for and won a grant from the New York State Urban Forestry Council Quick Start Grant Program. It's used to purchase and plant trees for Arbor Day. The grant is for $975 and was discovered and applied for in the last week that applications were accepted. This will pay for an Arbor Day tree and associated activities. So kudos to Mark and Susan for that. Item number 4, on March 31st, Adirondack tree surgeons removed 11 trees and pruned 4 in the vicinity of the auditorium. We want to thank the surrounding community for the parking cooperation received that day. Members of the tree and park committee met ATS in the morning and monitored their activities through most of the day. We weren't able to be there with them all the time. While the tree removal was done properly, unfortunately, the pruning was not. Our arborist, Jeff Speech, who was associated with the DEC and that works independently, determined that the pruning was amateur and in a few cases caused some damage. Last week I forwarded pics of the bad work and damage to Adirondack Tree Surgeons. We are currently bidding a response. No payments will be made to ATS until we come to an agreement regarding pruning, repruning, and or compensation for the tree damage. The Tree and Park Committee will be using, again, arborist Jeff Speech to help us steer us through this process. The new fire department Sutphen truck is ready for delivery. A resolution is requested to pay the invoice of $842,598.81 upon arrival. The board approves the transfer, the funds transferred. Excuse me, the board approval to transfer funds was already given at the board meeting of December 2024. The new DPW International truck is here. A resolution is requested to pay the invoice while when the title is received. The total was $237,609.70. Board approval to transfer funds was already given at the board meeting of February 2025. Item number 7, the bell tower work is complete. In order to pay Greenyard Structures, a resolution is requested to move funds as described below and pay the balance of $105,000. I think it's in there.
Yeah.
We did not get $105,000. No, this is the invoice. $105,000. So this is what they sent us, and that's the final total.
Okay, so that's just the invoice. A lot of these have like checks.
Well, because I haven't paid it.
Right, that's why I was checking.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't pay this without signatures. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this should be with the abstract then, huh?
Yeah.
That's why I'm holding it out. We're gonna use.
Oh, do you have, okay, do you have questions about it? Oh. Yeah, I got you. So that would decrease A8870 charitable gifts reserved by $40,000, decrease A88800 Parkland Reserve by $65,000, increasing A1620.42 municipal building contractual by $105,000. The fire department is giving training stipends for the first time this year, and the training budget has become over-encumbered as this was not initially budgeted. A resolution is requested to move funds to erase the negative balance and fund the training account for the remainder of the fiscal year. Decreasing account A3410.20, fire department equipment by $10,000 and increasing A3410.46, fire department training by $10,000. There is a back to the page, item number 9. One of the charge codes for paying CHS or CPAs is over encumbered by $325.54. A resolution is requested to transfer funds to remove the over encumbrance and fund the code for the rest of the fiscal year, decreasing A 590 UFB by $1,000, increasing G 1320.4 auditor contractual by $1,000. And lastly, I didn't put this on as an item number, but if you checked your email this week, you know that I put in my notice to Gary on Monday. Our last day will be May 6th. And thanks. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right, so we got a few resolutions here. We need to.
Motion to accept items 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yes. Discussion? Huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question. Sorry. These stipends $900. It looked like when I was going through these.
Yeah,
$10,000 is only like 11 of them, 11 stipends, is that enough?
There were still funds in the training account, so that just.
Okay. I mean, he actually will cover me in, yes.
Huh? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Chief.
All right, so for March, we have 42 alarms, for 370 staff hours, brings the yearly total up to 135 at the end of the month. With various drills and training hours, it brings the total staff hours up to about 3,000 hours. Eric mentioned the truck is actually getting close to delivery. It's off the factory floor. They're doing some final work at the factory before it'll come out here to the local dealer, and there's probably another couple of weeks or so of work there to get everything mounted and finalized. So probably around this time next month, you should be seeing that new truck. Couple upcoming events, April 26th, we'll be having a open house at the fire stations, coincides with the FASNY statewide recruitment effort. Pretty much every volunteer firehouse across the state should be having an open house to help recruit members. And we'll also be participating in the Malta Armed Forces Parade on May 10th. And in the past couple of weeks, we do have 2 firefighters that actually completed the national certification. So that's quite a bit of effort over the normal training requirements to obtain certifications. So,
Thank you. Code enforcement, Peter. MFR annual report was submitted to DEC. I'm working with Saratoga County coalition on future stormwater reports. I'm also dealing with Griffin's Ridge. HOA has a committee on stormwater. It seems the contractor, Pete Belmonte, has not shown interest in coming back and correcting. Typically, right now, the stormwater system in Griffin's Ridge is owned by Pete Belmonte. And he should be signing it over to the village, but he's just ignoring it. It's to me, from my point of view, it's his responsibility. It's less responsibility for the village, but this could drag on for a year or 2 years. It seems like it's happening with other developers around Saratoga County, where they're not coming back to. So I don't think it affects us in a negative way. It affects the people who live in Griffin's Ridge. They're not happy that he's not correcting stuff. But also basically they're to be cleaned out and dredged and. They have to vacuum the stormwater system. Technically, I got a lot of flack. Technically, we should be doing the same thing within the village itself. We should have our streets swept every year. We should vacuum out all our stormwater. We do vacuum out all the drains. And it affects the people of Griffin's Ridge. They have it's a very wet site and they have issues. So, and they can't blame us because it's not our responsibility. We did start 2 new projects this week in the village. 2 interesting projects. One on Josette's house, old house, Josette's house, and a large addition on Lake Avenue. Peter, the core behind Andrews Avenue, the planning board reviewed that and said we have no problem in selling that property. And we'll bring that up at May 7th for action. I requested it be put on the agenda for next week. And Susan and I will send out letters to the parties that are proximate to the land that's proposed to be sold.
Are you saying?
So everyone will have written notice, and then I think putting up a notice in the hall in the bulletin board.
2 neighbors, right? 2 neighbors. Written notice to neighbors or to everybody.
Yes. That'll be Kathy,
Yeah.
Galloway, Suites, and
200 people. And you want to have that meeting on the 7th on that?
no, next regular meeting.
That's what I thought. Okay, that was in my head.
Peter, the Griffin's Ridge, is this separate aside from like the curtain drain
Yep.
situation? Okay.
Actually, a few people in Griffin's Ridge said can we come back to the village and dissolve the HOA? You know, something that they feel like the reason there's an HOA is because of the original perk drain.
That is the reason.
And it's resolved.
Yeah,
They take full responsible for that original.
that was the reason they.
Yeah,
The
so
HOA.
I don't know, and I said, this is hearsay, you know, this
Right.
talking about, they'd have to vote on that. On that issue, we did have a meeting, with Jason and the DEC on the floodplain. Interesting fact about DEC has decided all of the Brown Lake is wetland. Which.
I don't disagree with that. Because I ended my basement.
Well, it presents a problem with, issues like, if somebody's putting an addition on their house,
Right.
they have to get approval from DEC,
Mhm.
to do that. I talked to other building inspectors in the area, and they're saying, I'm leaving it up to the homeowner. That's their responsibility. I don't wanna deal with it. And the reason why is because DEC could be dragging their feet, you could wanna do some work on your house, and it could take months to get a response from them. So, nobody seems to be dealing with that issue.
I have one question in regards to the stormwater issue with Belmonte. When he does get ready to turn it over to the village, does he have to turn it over to the village to the DEC's current standards? Or is it turned over at the whatever pre-existing standards which it was built? Because as we know, DEC likes to up the ante.
Well, I would imagine that it's called the, NOC, which is signed by the mayor, and we work with, Blue Niles from Cornell. And, he will do all the recommendations on, whether we should sign off on it or not. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be, I would feel it would be current, not some past, they're terrible, very difficult to deal with, you'd say.
No, just wondering, because the longer it gets kicked down the road,
Yeah, right, things could change.
the more things can change, and I want to know whose responsibility correcting those issues that would fall under.
All righty, thank you, Peter. Parking enforcement.
I've been out several times this month now, the weather's getting a little better and. The first time I've seen anything was the other night last night that I talked to you about. I think there is definitely one sign missing. And a gentleman parked right across the entranceway to the old seaplane base. And I didn't ticket him because the signs weren't quite right, so but I told him next time we had to pull down in there or go into the parking lot. And he said, okay, and then again, another thing is the previous accident that happened at the boat launch there where the garbage truck or the Stones vehicle hit the post that locks the gate. Now that gate's wide open again to one side. I'm gonna go over there tomorrow sometime with some heavier gauge wire and wire it open so the car doesn't tangle.
So it's.
In the wind.
Oh,
You only got a little.
every time I look,
the cars to go through.
It's open. You're saying it's not staying open.
Yeah, I'm gonna wire it up so it'll stay open before we have another accident. I observed the sewer cleaning truck was what it was, tangled up with the gate when I got there. And I reported it to you a year ago. And DEC's done nothing with it.
Talk to them.
That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Auditorium, David, and then Jason and Eric.
I guess item one, we'll talk about the backstage areas. This is the spreadsheet. Yeah, I have some supporting. Yeah. On 8.5 by 14. So this is some of the items that Carpathian was hoping to purchase. And we had a meeting on Saturday, we kind of made a decision and approved some of the items, and then the other ones we are still chatting about. Yeah, I can do that. Yep. So the ones with the checkbox are the ones that we approved on Saturday.
So what we came to a decision that we're gonna recommend to the board to allow Carpathian to purchase is portable, it's a portable dressing room with frame. Along with purchase of fire retardant curtains for those frames. Yep. And Dan Pesca has put forth a NFPA standard for the fire retardant qualities that the curtains must meet for the dressing rooms. And the other two items that, well, the other two items that I picked of are a costume hanging rack and a shelving unit. That we are recommending that we allow Carpathian to purchase. They match, that we feel that they match the overall feel and design of the auditorium. And we also agreed that to let them purchase a air conditioning unit, which is going to replace the damaged air conditioning unit in the AV room in the back. And then we approved, and we want to recommend that me and David work on a mock-up wall for making the dressing spaces more cohesive and nice. And what we recommended was a wall paneling, using a wall paneling matching similar tones to the existing to get it all a cohesive unit, solid pattern for and doing some door replacement and trim out. And we'll use one wall as a mock-up. And if the board approves that wall, we can look into what the cost would be to do the entire dressing rooms in that wall panel.
So think thin beadboard.
Yeah,
Essentially.
like quarter inch.
Yeah.
Looking for board approval to recommend that they purchase those items and approval to work on those two dressing room doors.
So there's no electrical work here, right?
Yeah, we haven't approved any yet.
Okay. And the AC unit is cut a hole through the back wall or a standalone with a vent?
It's a standalone replacing the exact model that was installed there previously.
They actually asked for 5 of them, but we're only approving one right now, so we're considering some other potential options for this.
Yeah, so that spreadsheet will continue to be updated.
And I guess I would say there's a couple things we sent back to them, like they suggested some vanity tables to get dressed and stuff. What they recommended is that sort of fiberboard stuff, which we are suggesting they should not use because things get damp in there and it'll just fall apart quickly. So we kick that back to them and say they use solid wood and see what they come up with and what they want to do.
Yeah.
The mirrors, we said they were ugly, basically.
They're just too modern.
Right, exactly. They look like 1980s objects. And we're kind of the painting and the floor work. We're talking about the wall.
Yeah.
Stuff instead.
We put that off till we can build a mock-up of the wall. Assemble and get the overall concept of the feel of what we want the dressing rooms to be. Then we can address the floor and other items in the future.
There is one last thing they did ask for, which is, but one of the things they also asked for was acoustic tiles, because the kids get bring lunches down there and you can hear them at the shows. And will do too. We said no to those also largely because they're ugly, but also because of the spiral board stuff and they're just gonna get damp and smell. But we are also considering there are holes in the ceilings, so if we have to replace the ceilings at some point, maybe getting rock wool is what you suggested, something to put some insulation, noise deadening stuff. So you don't have something that's up in there and like rock wool doesn't get damp or doesn't hold moisture. So something like that, but that's a longer term solution. So we did kick a few things back to them and we said no.
Yeah, so essentially we could hide some soundproofing.
Right.
And the damp problem too, avoid that. So what's nice about these racks too is they're just screwed to the wall, so if we ever need to remove them, we just screw it off the wall, so.
The goal is to steel pipe, so you can just literally put a little connector to it, and you can just literally screw it for like Halloween or whatever, so we can keep the pieces neatly organized and stuff. The other thing we told them is they had to buy storage boxes to put everything in again, so if at the end of the season, everything is away, we got it nice. So we need the board's permission to tell RPD that they can buy some things and then they can come back to see.
Yeah, is there any objections on the board?
I like the second column, expenses for the village.
Yeah, right.
$0, that sounds good.
So far, yeah. Yeah, it's like some of those items we can talk about if the village wants to chip in or anything as we go forward.
Also, David mentioned to me that in conversation, he had conversations with Curtis Lumber. They might be potentially interested in sponsoring the auditorium in some way. Is that something that can be looked into? Because they might be able to provide material for some of these projects.
I think it's more of a donation, less that they want to put their logo on the side of the building.
So the Curtis Lumber around.
If they want to give us a couple $1 million.
It's one of the guys who's involved with the community part of Curtis Lumber mentioned that his wife is a theater person and they would just love to be involved somehow, so.
Our house used to be a boarding house to the Episcopal Church. And it used to be nine rooms that were leased out. And one of those was in the late 1800s, was to Albert Curtis. Curtis. I still have the lease.
Where was that, Gary? Your house was.
That we have a stack of old leases like this, 99-year leases from the
Is it the room
1800s.
that I did at your house? The ceiling? Was it the room that I helped improve?
I don't know. I didn't see any graffiti saying Albert was here.
Oh, yeah, I didn't either. Yep, so then we got a email from Andover that their plan is to start assembling the walkboards. They're building the walkboards offsite at their location. They're gonna build those at the end of this month and then install them at the beginning of May. So I imagine they want to. In the email he sent back, he said they only really do repairs to prepare us for a night of illumination. But I do think that we should recommend that they tune it before. Especially after they do the walkboard repair, so. I think we should do a tuning in June and a tuning in August potentially. Unless John Fuller says the organ is good for organ recitals after a June tuning.
Who is cleaning?
I think we're trying to save some money. So.
Meaning that you're gonna clean or
Yeah, I
take
just-
money to hire
My
someone?
kids are gonna clean it.
Oh.
I do have somebody that's interested in cleaning it.
So they did it in the office today too, so
Okay, yeah, I think maybe we should have three cleaning personnel.
But I know that we usually do a big cleaning early in
Yeah.
the season, so I didn't know if that fits into.
So I do have someone that's interested in doing a big cleaning. And then otherwise, we were talking about having like a bunch of volunteers, like people who need, kids that need NHS hours to do like sweeping, you know, but then we could have professionals do some of the more detail oriented.
Are you gonna call Herman?
That's what
Let him know, or?
I can, yeah. I can keep them
Just because he
updated.
calls.
Yeah,
You know, pass him over to you.
Yeah, I think if we have
He
Herman
could
come
do
in,
it for years.
I don't know that we need him to do an extensive cleaning like he has done, but I think he could do. Yeah, I don't know if he has
Okay.
packages we
But
could
Corey,
select from. Yeah,
Six.
Okay.
yeah,
There will be some questions about.
Yeah, right.
right,
That's why we're considering.
Makes sense.
yeah.
I mean, it's a big space. And the reality is, events are starting, like, there's book sales.
Yeah, there's a book sale.
Arcadia wants to start doing things, like, it's coming quick.
Yep.
So we gotta get on this.
Good segue here, because there's a book sale.
Wait, before you go too much further,
Okay.
do we actually need to vote?
I thought we had to vote on the
Right,
mock,
on the what?
on the mock-up.
Yeah, right, like,
So
we,
yeah,
I think we asked the board, we as a group,
Yeah.
asked the board's permission, and now we need the board to approve, which is a vote, I believe, correct? Yeah. Okay, so we need to do that before you keep going.
Did you make it?
Yeah,
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I'll make the resolution that we, allow Carpe Diem to make the purchases as recommended by the historical building committee. Which includes the item we discussed here.
Well,
So then we need to second.
I'll second it. Discussion? I have one question. If 2 years down the road,
yeah.
they find another venue, do we keep this stuff?
It has been made very clear to Carpe Diem that once a item hits the auditorium, if they don't intend to move it immediately after they're done using it, it is donated to the village permanently.
Donate, using it at the end of the season or the end of their tenure in?
At the end of their season. So if they intend to leave it there throughout the winter, it is property of the village.
All these items are going to the village.
Yes,
Everything,
because everything's either
Yeah.
being physically installed
Yeah,
or their intent is to leave it there permanently.
yeah, and that was their intention when they started the fundraiser.
I think we should have an agreement, even if it's very short, in writing
Yeah,
to that effect.
so I think that could be separate from their rental contract, right?
That could be something.
It would be separate, like I wouldn't put that in their rental contract, that would be separate,
Yes,
a separate agreement, yeah.
Is that something that you could?
Yes.
would be able to draft up?
yes.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, we can work on that in the next week or so.
fixtures. I mean, okay, whatever, if this works best. I mean, we've already gone through the entire process of approving, they offered to give us a donation of $5,000 and buy the items. So we approved that, now we've approved what they're gonna buy, we've already approved this like 12 times. So we're just making the final approval now.
Yes.
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 I'm sorry to interrupt, I just want to make sure we got a vote.
No, I'm with. So yeah, book sale on the 25th and 26th, it's Friday evening and Saturday. And then we're planning, I talked to Gary Jones about this just to make sure it wouldn't conflict with the book sale. And we think that having a short event to just admire the bell tower at 2 p.m. on Saturday. So that will help draw people to the book sale and recognize.
What's Saturday? Is Saturday?
It is the 26th. Yeah.
What time is that?
At 2 p.m.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there will be a flyer that goes out. Yeah, so I don't know. I think this is what I want to ask the board, if we want to ring the bell during that time.
Absolutely.
Okay, how can you admire a bell though?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I imagine we'll say that the event starts at 2 and then we'll ring the bell at 2:30.
Is your air tag still on the bell?
No, I kind of wish it was, but it's not.
No.
No. Yeah.
That other resolution that we're looking for is to approve the items on that mock-up. I think that was one of the things. that
We're not-
we were talking, we did it
That's
now.
what we just did.
Oh, I thought that was the stuff for Carpe Diem.
We're gonna put,
I thought the mock-up was the room that he was Exactly, for
That-
purchase.
that's all-
To purchase the items for my car.
That's all part of. the
Oh, that's all
carpet
part of
meeting,
it?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna need an approval eventually from the board too. If it looks good to expand it.
Oh, okay, after.
Yeah, this
I
is,
got
this
you.
is.
Okay, I just,
So, yeah, I imagine for the next meeting, we could have like visuals. We can dazzle
We can go through both.
Could I ask a stupid
Yeah.
question?
There's no student.
These curtains that you're getting, fireproof curtains, the Air Force 40 years ago, when I was flying, got a new suit that they said is all waterproof or fireproof. The damn thing would get heat and we'd get a new set of skin. We melt right into the skin. If one of these things fell onto a child or they got tangled up in it, it's just gonna do the same thing if it's been checked out.
The curtains that are being recommended. Are curtains that are required in auditorium spaces and NFPA certified. So the National Fire Protection Agency has gone through, and there are specific certifications that these curtains have to follow.
I know they've made a lot of improvements.
Yeah, Janpesta has all of the very specific requirements for those curtains. I could go through and pull it out, but Janpeska's recommendations were extremely thorough. And it's what is required in all professional stages for all of their curtains and everything like that.
Well, maybe the few instances that we had with it, they probably would take them.
Speaking of fires, what is the status with the fire alarms?
And we're gonna be here on Saturday.
Saturday.
They're gonna be here on Saturday. However, I'm gonna have to submit a bill to the village. Incidentally, the village can set up a tax-free Amazon account.
Yeah.
It is possible for the village to set up a tax-free Amazon account.
Through all of, regardless of the vendors, you don't have to go individual vendors? Wow. Would you shoot me that info?
Yeah, you go through, you just sign up for a business account and mark yourself and prove that you're tax exempt, which the village will do. But I would find it for you, what I found in the US. So I have one last question.
Yeah.
I have a question about Tom. I think it's primarily for Tom. I asked about who has to sign the contracts for, who is able to sign the contracts for the auditorium. And you sent me this document, which is great, but it says village official. Is that the mayor?
In the past, I
On the
think.
second paragraph, I thought it said that the, has to be signed by the applicant and either the mayor or the clerk. Which I was surprised at, because I know, that we had discussed in 2021. I found the draft that we were gonna change from clerk to, the auditorium director.
I thought we had that.
Yeah, I do too, so I've been signing, I didn't sign it last year.
Well, I mean, you can, okay, yes, I did miss that, I just looked at the signature part.
I thought we had allowed the auditorium director to sign, that was when we had, I think you're right, Tom, right in that 2021.
Yeah.
timeframe. So
I think you signed most of them last
We
year.
never adopted
You
that,
signed
is that what
Carpe
you said?
Diems.
Um,
No.
I didn't see it adopted
Okay.
and on the village's webpage.
It's
is
still the
the
old
most recent version,
Well,
it's 2023, and that says mayor or clerk.
Okay. Yeah, I know we definitely had intended to make it the director. So we should look into that.
Yeah, it's not a burden.
No, it's not, no, I know.
One is purple.
Just
too.
the-
Sign it,
just
just-
directors?
Yeah.
Or just the director?
Why were you
You
want-
sign it as well.
May I ask a question too?
Yeah.
I had spoken with Scott Rigney
Yeah.
earlier this year. The league got a grant to purchase a new freezer and refrigerator for the concession stand. Would the auditorium be interested in the concession stand's fridge and freezer, chest freezer? My understanding is that ours is much newer than the one that's currently at the auditorium. But there's nothing wrong with ours, it just doesn't meet our needs anymore. If that's something
I would say, yeah.
you guys are able to use.
Yes.
So then once we get our new ones delivered, we'll go ahead and let you guys know.
Yeah, so our only directors at Valley Village.org.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I can-
So tomorrow. Sweet, thank you. Yeah. Other than that, contracts will be going out this month. We signing this month.
Okay, so Jason, Eric, and David, that's it.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Clerk.
There's a whole bunch of spring events that are going on, and just want to make everybody aware of volunteer opportunities for the tea festival and also markets. Meeting once a week, I think between now and the event. We got June, at the tea festival, which is taking place on June 21st and 22nd. And they're meeting on Mondays, the first and third Mondays of the month. And also, the first week on Mondays, April, May, and June at 7 p.m. And the markets event is August 9th and 10th, and they're meeting, not quite weekly yet, they're just kind of setting them up separately until it gets closer to the event, or until some of the springtime events are coming up. We have, paper lanterns being sold on May 3rd and June 7th at 9 a.m. here. I believe it's the 20th year of lanterns. And they've selected, they should be in any time. Village cleanup was a success. Thank you very much to Mary for organizing it. Worlds for sponsoring, Village for sponsoring, and DPW for all their efforts in cleaning up and making it look great. Same with the, yeah, I was gonna say, same with the tree committee, you guys made it look great with all the work on the trees and the mulching, and the village is looking nice in time for spring, it'll just dry up and stop being so windy to just dump more stuff in the way. We have a garage sale coming up on May 10th, you can still sign up until the end of this month, sign up is $25 to be put on the map. Yeah. Arbor Day is April 26th in South Park near the basketball court. I believe that's at noon.
Yes.
Then we have the Lions Club is sponsoring a fun-filled day of National Fitness Day on May 3rd. Music, hot dogs, water, and other fun stuff provided along Zimsmith Trail between Boston and Round Lake. A lot of activity in Minnetonka Park, which is the center point between the two events. And the post office wants to remind people, if you are moving within the village, to please update your physical address so that it matches your post office box. Thank you.
I add something to that too, for folks that are renewing their PO boxes, you need 2 forms of identification now. So
Yes.
you used to only one as far as that, so make sure you bring it to me.
Well, one of them has to be a picture, and one of them has to be
Yeah,
something else. It could be
Yeah.
a copy of your deed, a copy of your.
right,
mortgage.
but it's 2, you used to
Yes.
only need 1.
Okay.
Yeah, right, yes. Some other favors.
It can't be, or can.
Yeah. I had to give a homeowner's policy.
Yeah, that's the like insurance.
Yeah. So, yes, it's pretty.
They take insurance, they should take it.
It's- I'm not sure that's.
I think that also can be done, I think.
End of April, I think, for me.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, and, then it's just,
That is it.
okay. Eric, you've already done the tree committee one.
Yes.
Here.
That's what is in the treasurer's report, just sort of.
Okay, very efficient. Yeah, under old business. Approve the budget. Entertain a motion to approve the 25-26 budget. As presented. Last meeting.
So moved.
Second discussion. Tom? Yes. Jay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Stop sign camera update, we have, two pieces of legislation, one in the House and one in the Assembly and one in the Senate, State Senate. Moving that will allow us to put up to 5 stop sign cameras. And a couple minutes will be, voting on a home rule resolution that will allow us to do that. And it does not mean that once we do that, we're automatically putting up the stop sign cameras. It will give us the ability to do that if we, as a board, choose to do so. Bulk waste pickup, where did we land on that? Is it too expensive?
Yeah, I think at this point, it's something that we should table till next year, potentially. It's getting kind of too late in the season now to schedule stuff anyway, at the ideal time would have been next couple of weeks, but Malta does have their pickup, or sorry, their drop off on, I think, April 26th and May 3rd, right? So
2 weekends?
Yes.
2 weekends, yeah, 2 weeks. So we should reevaluate this next year, and I think, maybe a little earlier in the year. And see if we can get multiple bids again.
Getting harder to get multiple bids, so.
Yeah, it's staffing. They can't get people to work with garbage trucks.
Okay, soccer field, Early, there is the water has been connected. There is turf being put in. And there's still a list of things that the owner is, that Clifton Park is requiring that the owner do. I don't have that list with me. Don't recall if I sent it out in the packet or not. But it was a pretty substantial list involving parking and all sorts of things. I will let people know when the next Clifton Park hearing is about it, if there's any other concerns. I'll be able to make your feelings known about that. Dave, you have anything to add?
Yes, I do have a question based on conversations with DEC and learning about the wetlands. We know if that project has received all of the applicable wetlands permits to be able to do the work that they're doing. They have managed to bring in a lot of additional fill for the project. And I don't know how to look up and see if they have the wetlands permits and if DEC has approved their actions yet.
The planning board is asked for those permits. So they're required to bring me to the next meeting. They also want them to do a stormwater prevention plan, which is a book like this big. It's costs a lot of money to get done. I look at what they're required to do, and it's an awful lot. I don't think they'll be ready for a couple of months to pull their act together.
And he has started moving ahead and doing work. He intends on having people there shortly, as soon as the grass is growing, to start having training camps. So my question is, how if he's ignoring Clifton Park in the request to say, hey, you need to provide this, this, and this, he's moving forward with work.
I don't think we can. I think that
But he has.
Yeah, I don't think five would be.
And that's the thing, is
But
that-
I don't think like, Clifton Park would say you don't have adequate parking, you don't have 2 roads going in, you're supposed to have a road from Wood Road and one from Early. There's so much that they're asking, I mean, there's a ton of
yes,
stuff.
I see.
And they're not gonna let them open up without that stuff. I mean, I'd be shocked, they're pretty strict with the park.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering who, because I see it across from my
Yeah.
front window, I see that they told him, no, you can't do that, yet here he is doing that without the appropriate.
Water in?
What?
You need to go through and put water in?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, the water's, that one's the other thing, that's fine, it's gotta be cleaned up, and that dip in the road hasn't been fixed yet, because John wanted to settle before any asphalt was put over it, otherwise.
They can't, you know, we could complain to to Clifton Park, I mean, because what he has to provide is, man, it's a lot of stuff, and he'll never be ready.
And the planning board more than suggested that he needs professionals to assist him with that.
But again, they're asking for a traffic study. So he's got a lot of stuff ahead of him.
Yeah, that, I know he does, and,
And I would be concerned too, if I looked out my window, and they were out there, kids running around the field, but, you know, he's, I don't think he's allowed to, I mean, he already did it, didn't he, last summer?
Yep, he has essentially ignored everything that Clifton Park has said thus far.
So it sounds like something that.
So that's,
With Clifton Park, I mean, we can't even.
No, we can't do anything about it, but I do know the people in Clifton Park, and I'll bug them.
I'm just curious if he has those proper, well, I know he doesn't have those proper DEC permits, so how was he allowed to bring in the soil and start his construction project prior to even being allowed to start this construction project?
Yeah, but that's still a Clifton Park problem, we can't do anything about it.
Right.
Right onto the DEC.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we good,
Well, we're on top of it, and we're following up on it.
yeah, I will do what I can.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time for turf to settle in and. That's. I agree with Peter, it's gonna be a while before anybody can use it.
It's so wet too, it's such a wet site.
Who is in charge of repaving the cut in the road?
We are, but we're waiting for the.
No, we're not, I mean, they are. They paid for it because they had to cut through the road. But we just wanna make sure it's done properly and it's not a big mess, because that road was just repaved last year. Alrighty, under new business, personnel policy update. I believe we were going to put that off to May 7th and take some time for us to take a look at it, along with any of the other suggestions that Eric had made, do a little more comprehensive audit of it. So I believe you all have copies of it, and if we'll send a new copy to you. So I believe that was the topic of the May 7th workshop, if memory serves.
And I think it goes back like so many years, so it's almost time they could put that in.
And we've tweaked it a
Right,
little bit over the
many
years.
times.
Yeah. Schedule a public hearing on New York State Real Property Law 461-L, partial tax exemption for emergency services volunteers from neighboring towns. I believe we're going to schedule a public hearing for that for May 7th. That ring a bell?
May 7th, May
Can I have can someone move a resolution scheduling the public hearing, please?
6:30 on May 7th, so.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
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 Yes. Stop signs, home rule resolution, this will allow us to send the proper paperwork to the state assembly and the state, Senate for the stop sign camera law. Whereas failure of motorists to stop at stop signs within the village of Round Lake has been a longstanding and dangerous problem, which has not been significantly reduced by increased law enforcement patrols, speed humps with flashing lights. And whereas a number of stop signs which are routinely ignored by motorists are also bus stops at which students congregate. And whereas legislation has been proposed in the forms of Senate Bill S 7194 and Assembly Bill A 7608, which bills would permit the village of Round Lake to enact a local law or ordinance establishing a demonstration program
of up to 5 years imposing monetary liability on the owner of a vehicle for failure of an operator to stop for a stop sign located in the village. Now therefore it is resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Round Lake fully and unconditionally endorses and supports Senate Bill S1794, and it's further resolved with the Board of Trustees of the Village of Round Lake fully and unconditionally endorses and supports Assembly Bill A7608, and it is further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Round Lake requests that the New York State Senate adopt S7194, that the New York State Assembly adopts A7608, and that the governor sign the same into law. And it is lastly resolved that the mayor of the Village of Round Lake is authorized and directed to execute the home rule requests and the other documents necessary to advance said Senate and Assembly bills. Discussion? One question that came up was, if these are put up, is it all or nothing, or can you set up different levels of forgiveness? Do you have to stop for 5 seconds and then go, or can you roll through it 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour? There are different levels of sensitivity that can be set. That was one big concern.
And there's notices versus tickets.
And there's notices, like notices versus tickets. You can set it up so the first month is just notices, go to people, and followed by tickets.
What's the revenue sharing with this?
Revenue, I believe, is it's no cost to the village, and the vendor gets 60% and the village gets 40%. Okay.
Demo program for 5 years.
Pardon?
Demo program for 5 years.
That's the way they do the home rule thing. They demo them for 5 years.
Okay, so then we can in theory revisit it afterwards.
We can in theory, but by then will be worse than the Legend of Jonesville. People will tremble when they drive through around.
You know, I never heard of that, so I stayed.
Wow. You are.
Try to Charlton.
Charlton Drive, no.
Last question, are there multiple companies that offer these?
There's not too many.
Okay.
Not too many. I've been looking high and low.
Okay.
There are a number that do speed cameras, but not many that do the stop sign.
Okay.
Aye. Huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think you skip the recreation fund for the. Which is number 2.
Which is on what?
New business. I think you skip the second bullet.
Schedule public hearing.
Recreation fund, you might be different order on yours.
It is different. It's not on mine. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was a request from Little League to pitch in for the funding for the CPR training.
New York State passed a new law that went into effect on March 20th of 2024. We didn't have to follow the rephrase. It did not affect us last season. It does affect us this season because we have new coaches. So we had to have the majority of our coaches CPR and AED certified to follow that law. It came to a total of $580.25. Was our total. I sent the invoice to Sue this evening, so she does have a copy of it. But we were just hoping that we could get some help with covering the cost of that.
Sounds like what our recreation fund is for.
Yep, why don't we just pay the bill?
I agree.
Yeah.
Motion to do so.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Discussion.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Did how many coaches were? Did you get them all certified?
11 coaches went to the classes, and then we had 5 who were already certified through their work that submitted their certifications.
Great.
And we have 18 total coaches.
How long does the certification last?
3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
You'll probably need more coaches next year. Though.
That's what I was going.
Yeah. So the good news is that a lot of our coaches that have coached in previous years, they tend to come back. The bad news is that we have a lot of T-ball kids, and that means we have a lot of new coaches for 4 and 5 and 6-year-old kids.
That's good.
Yeah, it's both good and bad, and that we have to make sure that they are certified as well. What we can try to do for next season is they're requiring, 1 coach per team to be certified, so we can try to make sure we match up somebody who is certified with somebody who isn't certified to keep stretch a little longer. But we can also go ahead and add that into our pricing grant as well. Malta Stillwater, EMS Director Scott. Skinner, thank you. He did offer for free Narcan training to set up a class if there's interest. He opened it to the league, but also to anyone in the community. So if we can get enough people who are interested in it, he's willing to offer free Narcan training to be able to administer Narcan. He also offered it to the league to be able to store, but we do not have a temperature safe place to be able to store it in. It's very temperature sensitive, so our concession stand would get too hot. Not like that, though, if we're not on the field or the machine is open and somebody doesn't have access to it, because that is a locked room. And it is a different code. We are moving the CPR AED machine into the main equipment shed that's closest to the parking lot, the one that's right next to the concession stand. All of our coaches have that code, and most of Round Lake, I feel like, has that code too. So that will be there. We did get it re-inspected last season, but he is, Scott is gonna take another look at it just to make sure everything is still up to date with that. Along with that, Albany Med is one of our sponsors this year, and they are offering first aid kit. So we'll also have a first aid kit in all of the sheds as well, as with the kids things. But if anyone in the village is interested in our Narcan training, we just need to know so we can set that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Grant writing, I've been in touch with Providence Falls when they are working with a grant writer. And I've been in touch with the person supervising that, and I'll try to get some more information on that, see whether they're satisfied with what they're doing, what the costs are. I'll keep you posted on that. Mowing services outsourcing, we got 1 quote. And it came in about the same. It didn't really show any savings. It was about the same as having our folks do it, so. The deadline for bids isn't until, or quotes isn't till end of the month, so based on it, I'll have some more info on that. At the moment, it looks like that's kind of a no-go. But we're trying. Correspondence.
Before you get to that, I'm sorry, did you skip the village truck auction?
Nope.
Yes.
Oh, that's on hold. Village. Sorry about that. Thank you, Tina. Village truck auction. I think as we discussed last time, Johnny wanted to keep the big truck for a while, see how the tariffs play out and whether the cost of the price for used trucks will go up any, so we may be able to make some money on that. He's in the process of getting the pictures for the trucks that we can put up on auction sites. I don't have those from him yet. The small truck, the old fire truck. Let's see, where did that stand? We can put it up on the auction site.
We can sell it any way we want, as long as the board determines that we're getting a fair value for the truck.
Okay. So I'm still waiting for the photos to put up on an auction site for that, so.
So we're going the auction site route then, and try to sell it individually.
We could do both, I suppose. But I don't really know what fair value.
That's what I was going with that, is how it will be determined.
Auction.
Right. I was gonna ask about
new fire truck is replacing one of the fire trucks, right?
No, this one's actually, well, yes and no. The truck it's replacing is gonna be repurposed as a water and ice rescue truck.
Okay, so we're not gonna have to sell that.
Right, so we're not taking something off the line this time.
Ice rescue truck?
Right, so right now, all of our water and ice rescue equipment is on the two rescues, the large one down here and the smaller one at the shared station. So the new truck would kind of take the place of the small rescue, and then we would use that to pull over the arc of the.
Oh, okay.
and put all
So
the-
it's still
the
an
rescue-
active vehicle.
It'd still be an active vehicle, just right now.
Has
it's
a new
kind of
name.
Overstuffed with equipment, as we've added things over the years, so.
You open the drawer and it falls out.
All right, did I miss anything else?
Correspondent.
Were you gonna cover the contract revision, Gary?
There you go.
The numbers for the
Yeah.
water contract?
Want me to discuss this?
Sure.
Mhm.
Okay, the host company has asked us to amend the 2024 contract for services. By decreasing the amount of the payment to the host company from 147,000 and change down to 50,492. And increasing the amount of budgeted for the village's fiscal year by an equivalent amount, so that it goes up from 584,000 to 681,000. And this is so that it matches the way that the host company keeps the books. The bottom line is the same, and I have no concerns. What we're looking for is someone to move a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign the amended agreement and approving amended agreement.
But make the motion to, the resolution, I should say, or amend that, and authorize the mayor. to sign.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. All right. Your correspondence now?
Malta Arts is seeking artists to capture the Red Lake Malta spirit, which is going to be displayed up along Route 9 in banners, like you see with the veterans, and you see a lot of times historic things being done on banners, under lights and whatnot along the way. The Malta Arts received a grant, and they're using the grant funds to do these banners. They've got 10 of them that they're gonna be putting up this summer. They are seeking artists to capture the spirit that will be displayed, and they're looking for the village to be featured amongst those 10 that are going up in Malta. So we would like to encourage all to submit their artwork. I think David is working to do camera work and scanning work to get those into the form that needs to be submitted for the banners. And then I believe that we have reserved space here so that they can review all of the different artwork. So we're being very active in helping the banners that are being worked on for the Malta League of Arts.
So they're gonna review the art in the community room, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Cool.
And I think it's the 8th, like right after, like I think all submissions have to be in by July 1st. And I think the following Wednesday, I think they are meeting in here to go through.
And then we are planning to display the original artwork, before it's scanned, so the actual piece that an artist makes, we're gonna display it at the auditorium in August. For 10 to 14 days, something like that.
So, and I think it's meant for all age groups. So encourage the ones that are seasoned as well as, the younger ones that have a lot of talent that could also.
Gary, can we share that on the village page, that this is small?
Yeah, I have flyers for it. I had to get through the spring stuff that was happening this week before I could FD off the bulletin.
I just looked up, multiple league bars had a paid post video
Yeah.
2 days ago, so
Was the
Right.
it's something?
July 1st.
July first is the
Yeah.
deadline, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we, it's electronically someplace rather than just.
Yeah.
And in the emails, to Gary too, just make a note. to
Right,
the next
right.
update, you know.
And the auditorium has the Malta League of Arts as a community partner, so we do some cross emailing
Mhm.
through our list, so I'm gonna be doing, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, so it'll come from the mayor and auditor.
I think the artists here.
Yeah.
We have a lot of talented people in
We
town,
do.
sunshine.
Approval of minutes.
I was not here for 2 weeks, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 2nd.
Second.
Well, I mean, I was here for all of them, so you make one for all of them.
Yeah, but then I have to abstain from the other two.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so you made the motion,
I made a motion, Tom seconded it.
discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Eric?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And then I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for 219 and 319. Second.
Discussion? Pat?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Abstain.
yes. Yeah, I'd say yes. Approval of abstract.
You got it.
We accept the abstract from the treasurer has provided the April abstract for approval, which includes marked prepaid invoices and April claim. The total for the April abstract is $197,223.71, and is to be approved per fund as follows. A fund general, $192,566.79. F fund water for $3,581.95, and G fund, which is the sewer, for $1,073.97.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
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 Yes. Village attorney.
The only thing I have is, there was a discussion about defibrillators. Whether we should get them for the village, and the question was that, are we required to have them? We are not required to have one. But of course, everyone urges that, public buildings should have them.
So the auditorium too, because that's where the bulk of the people are.
Probably should.
The field does have one.
Huh?
Amber, the field does have one.
Okay, did you, when you were describing the temperature sensitivity, was that?
So yeah, so the AED machine, we cannot leave it in the sheds over the winter. It gets too cold, it'll destroy the machine. So that comes to one of the board members' houses for the winter season. But for the rest of the year, it's at the concession stand.
They're not inexpensive, are they?
Ours was purchased prior to me being on the board. But I know, yeah,
I saw some 700 to.
The prices come way down for.
it's the pads. Honestly, it's the pads.
The pads are,
The
yeah.
pads are expensive.
Yeah.
And they do expire, so you have to get it.
I wonder if there's certain. Well, we can.
And just to let everybody know, I added it to the, the app. There's an app actually called My AED that was suggested to us by, Multiple Stillwater. And so I made sure to add ours, so it is marked as, unfortunately, not accessible simply, but if, they break the lock, I guess you gotta say that, if you know what I mean. But we did make sure to mark it, so people know that it's one of the field, so.
Yeah, and like I said, it will be in the equipment shed. It is just not there yet. We're bringing it to Multiple Stillwater to just make sure. It's working.
Good stuff.
Right, well, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do we make a motion that look into that or do it? I didn't think so either.
Yeah, please.
I actually have mine I actually have the fields in my car. I'm gonna grab it so you can see what we have. That's. Helpful.
I don't have to consider.
Yeah.
Village mayor, electronic recycling, GE has a project sponsored by their Elephant Society, which is retired GE workers. That they take all sorts of old computers, printers, and things like that. I got a basement full of crap I'm going to bring down next week, I hope so. If anybody has any old computer stuff they're trying to get rid of, this is a good, they rehab it and give it away to.
Are you collecting
People.
it to deliver?
I probably have a van full already. But I just want people to know that that is something that is available. Large screen TVs, all electronic devices, they take all sorts of things. I think I
We
said,
do
I
have a
think,
flyer, right? I was gonna say, I'm gonna put the flyer on the.
yeah, I think I emailed that out as well. Included that in my village update. And again, the reminder, if you're doing any work on your property, check with Peter to see if a permit is needed. And village trustees.
Nothing for me.
Jason? No. Thank you. Eric?
No.
All right, T. Public comment?
I have one. Just really quick, I got a call from Capital District Sports and Fitness. They used the field last year for agility training. He's asking if it's available again. I don't think it's a problem at all. It's the last Wednesday of June to the second Wednesday of August at 11 a.m. I don't think I think your season's over by then. I think we did.
Yeah, I think we have trophies that evening, but then not
Yeah.
until 6:30 at night.
Yeah, we contracted it out last year, so I just wanted to I need to let him know it's gonna be available.
It's okay with you, it's okay with
Yeah,
me.
it's not a problem. We'll just do the contract over again, have to sign it, and come up with how much he owes us.
I didn't think they were on the field, were they? They were like,
Yeah,
back
Yeah.
between the fence and the.
yeah, the back part of it, I mean, well, yeah. So, okay.
All right, thank you. Did you have anything for AP3? You can say no.
No.
Okay.
I didn't know you were here until you like raised your.
Yeah, I know, I just came in, sorry.
It's been fun.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm sorry, just while we have Amber here, and I might have missed it. As far as the combinations, did you say something about the combinations on the door, they're gonna be changed or anything on the shed?
So the shed combinations for both equipment shed combinations have stayed the same. So it's, I think.
Can we just make sure that we
Yeah.
have that available?
Yeah.
Available to the village, because that's one of the things that we're gonna need. to
So yeah, concession stand, that one changed because after the break-in, we had to change it. But yeah, I'll write it down for you guys.
And your, one is the construction?
Oh, yeah, so we are working on a concession stand, so. Part of we got a grant from Global Foundries, this past fall. Believe it's for
$5,000, yeah, it's $5,000.
to help, so Department of Health had some concerns with the porous nature of the serving portion of like the concession stand because it's wood and it's starting to warm and things like that. So part of the grant is to replace that, as well as to get the new fridge and freezer. So which will get probably once you guys.
And we're gonna be putting we're gonna be putting a floor down too, just like a laminate, I'm sorry.
Which is, yeah.
Like
so
tile, like
tile.
sticky tiles. We have to have something a little needed to clean, because there's a lot of holes and stuff, and they actually recommended we do that too.
Yeah, so that's the other recommendation that we have from them, and then we're also fixing the wall, so portions of the wall are going out. And it's just because it's humid and it's a
Shed.
shed, yeah, it's a shed with the wood paneling walls. So we're fixing this as well. But we're not doing any electrical work, so we should be fine there. Although if anybody has any ideas on how we could get water to the concession stand, we'd love to hear that idea.
We'd love to be able to clean
We'd
it.
love to be able to get running water. We are operating without a permit. I spoke already with Department of Health. We are not serving anything that requires a permit for this season. While we make those repairs, everything that we're serving is going to be prepackaged, so that we don't have a permit for the season. But our goal is that after the repairs, we'll go ahead and get inspected, get a new permit, so that we'll have it ready for fall ball, so we can have coffee and hot chocolate and cider and that kind of thing. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session for the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition for sale or exchange. But only when publicity would substantially affect the value thereof. So. Discussion?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Just like.